It's 1 year, the anniversary this week. Any regrets as you look back on what happened during that period as to how it was handled with creditors?
Well, plenty, a myriad of regrets. We failed. We were elected with a mandate to reboot the Greek economy and to renegotiate a loan agreement and a fiscal consolidation path that was utterly unsustainable. Unfortunately, the other side, the troika of lenders, were not interested in having a rational discussion, and we failed to convince them. The problem, of course, is that given that we are continuing along the path of the failed program, Greece is continuing to sink deeper and deeper into the debt deflationary spiral, and we missed this chance collectively, creditors, lenders, the European Union, the International Monetary Fund. We missed this great opportunity we had to stabilize Greece and take it off the headlines, so you don't have to have a program on Greece again.
Alexis Tsipras. So basically what you're giving is Alexis Tsipras no chance of fixing Greece.
It's not a question of Alexis Tsipras. God and his angels could not fix Greece based on
God
this
and
loan
his
agreement.
angels are not necessarily in charge. Alexis Tsipras is.
The point I'm making is that even if he were God and his angels in charge, given the constraints of this memorandum of understanding, this loan agreement, it can't be done. Let's be practical here. Can a broken economy like Greece be mended by pushing almost every good and service to the 23% VAT band? Can we possibly fathom recovery when businesses, small, medium and large, were forced in the last couple of months of 2015 to prepay 100% of their corporate tax for 2016 in 2015? This is what you do to a country if you want to crash it. Not if you want to allow it to recover after 8 long years of permanent recession, of continuing drops in nominal GDP.
The debate tonight is on the pension reform that Greece, the creditors say, needs to go through. Is Alexis Tsipras on the wrong side of that debate?
Alexis knows exactly what needs to be done, except he has already capitulated to a program that is unsustainable. Let me put it very succinctly. The pension funds saw their capitalization depleted completely in 2012, when their capital was effectively wiped out due to the PSI, to the haircut. The pension funds were forced to hold lots of Greek government bonds, and those were haircut massively. So the pension funds had a double whammy. They were hit by this haircut, one, and secondly, they were hit by the recession, because the number of people working in work and contributing to the pension funds has collapsed. You cannot mend this pension system simply by cutting further, because the further cuts that the IMF, for instance, insists upon, this belt tightening, would lead to a further decline in aggregate demand and economic activity, which will reduce employment further and reduce the contribution to the pension funds further. We need to arrest this crisis, and you cannot do it simply by cutting anymore.
Yet the review...
Alexis Tsipras knows that.
Yet he is pursuing this at this point in time because he knows that it's tied to the review money.
Look, it's very simple. He capitulated to a series of policies that he knows will fail, that were imposed upon him by people who know that they will fail.
Right. So what's he doing?
Well, it's what we've been doing for 5 years in Greece, extending and pretending. We are pretending that the insolvency of the Greek state and of the banking sector can be overcome by means of new loans on conditions of measures that shrink national income. That cannot work. It will not work. Everybody knows this. Look, I had a remarkable conversation with somebody high up in the Troika when I was in the ministry. I won't reveal names, but I think the essence is very simple. This person said to me, look, Yanis, I agree with you. This program can't work, but we're committed to it politically. So for you to gain credibility as a government of Greece, especially the left-wing government, you have to accept it. And I thought, oh my God, here I'm being told that an economic reform program that can't work must be embraced by us, by them, and this is what's happening. Europe and the IMF are in constant denial.
So, will Greece get the review money? Will pension reform be passed? If something is unsustainable,
I think
it generally has to end.
I think yes and yes.
So the money will be there?
Oh, but remember, this is not money for Greece. This is extending and pretending. The Troika is taking money from one of its pockets and putting it in another. So the Greek state borrows from the ESM to give to the ECB. It borrows from the ESM to give to the IMF. This is not money for Greece. This is not money that goes into some kind of investment for recovery. So the money will be given because the Troika wants to pay the Troika. This is effectively the extending and pretending exercise that we are witnessing. The pension funds will be cut. The pensions will be cut. This is not a reform. Look, taking a meat cleaver and cutting is not a reform. Surgery is reform. What we needed in Greece was to find a way of putting together our pension policies, our social security policies, and the rationalization of the funds, together with a development strategy involving privatization, involving using the assets, public assets of the state as collateral in order to create a homegrown investment stream into these capital assets in order to improve their value, not just fire sales, and to bring all this together so that the profits from these investments of the state can be utilized in order to recapitalize the pension funds, while at the same time I would be very much in favor of reducing early retirements. This is a scandal in Greece that we have so many early retirements, but not touch the lowest of the pensions, which is now what is going to be touched. So we should be doing exactly the opposite of what we're doing.
But this is what we're doing. This is what is happening.
We've been doing it for 5 years.
This is precisely. So, but as you say, it's extend and pretend. How? But all parties are playing the game at the moment. The reason why we had a crisis was that Syriza decided not to. That the music was going to stop. At the moment,
The reason why we're having a terrible crisis is that in 2010 the Greek state was bankrupt. And the powers that be in Europe and the IMF decided to cover up this bankruptcy, treat it as a illiquidity problem with extended and pretend loans. That's why Greece is in the news. The reason why you and I are talking about it was not that Syriza was elected.
No, but
we were elected.
Stepped up and said, we don't think this is sustainable.
But it isn't sustainable. There isn't a single economist I know who believes that this is sustainable. And it's a tragedy that we keep extending and pretending a situation which everybody understands to be unsustainable. Look,
when does it stop being sustainable again, though? We were all there last summer.
You mean when will you go back to Athens?
When will I go back
to report on demonstrations? Look, these are political events. The economics is definitely going to lead to another flare-up in Greece. Exactly when it will happen, it's impossible to predict. It will happen. There's no doubt about that. But look, let's be practical here.
But is that a short-term? Sorry, I know you said it's impossible to predict. This year, next year, how long would you give it?
I can't see stability, even at this bad equilibrium and deteriorating equilibrium, being maintained for more than a few months. But it is impossible. It really doesn't matter. People are suffering increasingly every day. Europe is fragmenting increasingly as a result of the policies that are being applied in Greece and then are transferred to Portugal and elsewhere. Look, you've got to understand one thing. This was my experience. There has been no serious debate about how to stabilize the Greek economy. Why? Because Greece is collateral damage in a broader game of brinkmanship between Paris and Berlin. Paris and Berlin have not worked out what they want to do with the Eurozone. The Eurozone is not sustainable. And the French national budget is that which Berlin has its eyes set upon. Greece is not going to be allowed to be stabilized until and unless the two great powers of Europe work things out amongst themselves.
Can I just leave Greece for a moment? You set up a new organisation, EU-wide movement, the left-leaning organisation. The question I think people are asking themselves is in London, have you had any conversations with Jeremy Corbyn of the Labour Party? Have you had any interest from him in joining that?
My view, unlike many of my compatriots, many of the people in continental Europe, is that Britain is essential for the European Union, and for us who are interested in democratizing the European Union, who do not accept the regime in Brussels, like many Brits don't, it would be a tragedy if we did not have this conversation.
Have you spoken to Jeremy?
So the answer is yes. We are in communication with the Labour Party. We're in communication with the Green Party. We're in communication with lots of people in Britain, including Conservatives, who want with us to create an escape from this dreadful dilemma, false dilemma, between either accepting the Brussels democracy-free zone that we have, or fragmentation, retreating to the cocoon of the nation-state. There must be a third, better way. And we are in communication with many people in this country.
Have you actually had a conversation with Jeremy Corbyn?
I'm not going to mention precise details about the communication. Is live and quite productive, actually.
Yanis Varoufakis, as always, a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed for your time.